It is the Savage Nation for Blue Monday, and I would say that it's a very Blue Monday indeed for those of you on the left who are coming to understand that everything I've been warning you about, the people who've been using you, is coming to be true. We read over the weekend that Hitler was not such a bad guy, that the Holocaust was, well, not so bad, really. The Russians suffer even more. And when asked why such a focus on the Holocaust, your hero, Oliver Stone, says, the Jewish domination of the media. Oliver Stone, your hero on the left, says there's a major lobby in the U.S., they're hard workers, they stay on top of every comment, the most powerful lobby in Washington, and that Hitler was misunderstood. And that's your friend Oliver Stone. That's the man you have come to love all these years, the man who has lauded the mass murderer, Fidel Castro, the man who lauds the mass monster, Chavez, Oliver Stone. So Oliver Stone and the other leftists here who seem to think that dictators are just fine so far as they're left socialists, now comes full tilt and exhibits himself to be the worshiper, shall I say, or the apologist for Adolf Hitler. And I ask you on the left, especially you Jews, you Jewish who support left-wing causes without knowing that you're just useful idiots, what is it going to take for you to wake up to understand what is going on and what role you're being asked to play in this? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Do you have any idea what happened, the bombshell over the weekend? When we have a left-wing filmmaker named Oliver Stone who says that Hitler was a Frankenstein, but there was also a Dr. Frankenstein, German industrialist, the Americans and the British. He said Hitler had a lot of support. He says Hitler's atrocities, why Hitler did far more damage to the Russians than the Jewish people. He said he killed 24, 30 million Russians, he said. The reporter says to Oliver Stone, why such a focus on the Holocaust? And Oliver Stone, your left-wing hero, says the Jewish domination of the media. Now, this is the same Oliver Stone who smeared the American military with that crackpot movie called Born on the 4th of July. Remember that one done in the 80s with that bad actor Tom Cruise playing the boy from Massapequa who got butchered, shot up in Vietnam? Remember that old movie where you came to hate the war and where you saw the American troops as murdering fascists? That was your boy, Oliver Stone. Same Oliver Stone, of course, has done other movies that glorify drug dealers such as Scarface. Don't you understand what you're dealing with here? You're dealing with a left-winger who is now glorifying Hitler, and you are being used as a useful fool. But if you don't want to talk about it, we'll talk about another useful idiot, which is, again, another useful idiot, which is you. Here's Howard Dean, perhaps the most laughable character in the Democrat machine, and I want you to just hear him in clip number one, then we'll talk about it.
Let me put in a good word for Newt Gingrich here.
That's a kiss of death.
No, I'm serious. The biggest difference between this Republican Congress and I don't agree with very much that Newt Gingrich wants to do, but the biggest difference is Newt has a ton of ideas to move the country forward. He did when he was Speaker. There are no ideas in the Republican Party right now in the Congress. They're the party of no. They desperately need some intellectual leadership. And whatever you think of Newt Gingrich, he can supply intellectual leadership. So I hope he does run.
Now, why would you think that a fool like Howard Dean would encourage Newt Gingrich to run for president? Well, now remember, I am not a fan of Newt Gingrich. I depicted him as the Gopak tick in my book, The Political Zoo. I have seen through him from day one. I think Newt Gingrich is like the oil slick in the Gulf of Mexico. He just keeps on spreading his wares, and he's very thin when you look beneath the surface of the ink. Gingrich is a Democrat plant. Gingrich is the perfect candidate to re-elect Obama, which is why a fool like Howard Dean would think that we'd fall for that. I will tell you again that Sarah Palin was brought in to destroy the McCain candidacy, and she did so. I will tell you again that if the Republicans run Palin and even Gingrich, they're doing so to make sure that the Democrats get reelected, and all they will have done is take your money once again for a campaign that they cannot win. I am the perennial outsider. I acknowledge that. I admit that. Now, we can talk about these if you want. Oliver Stone and the self-hating Jews, Oliver Stone and the self-hating leftists. Actually, most leftists are not self-hating. They're self-loving. They loathe America and the American way. But the fact of the matter is he has now shown himself to be sympathetic to Adolf Hitler, and I'm asking you how you can live with yourself is the real question. But that's not the biggest point. The biggest point is the next one, which is Newt Gingrich. Do you actually think Newt Gingrich is a viable candidate who could beat Obama? You know he isn't. You know that Gingrich has no following. You know the only reason the Republicans would run him is to make sure he loses. Okay, so that's point number 2. Now let's get to the granddaddy of topics today on this no news day. Yeah, there's no news day. How about the fact that both of the parties, going back to Bush, now Obama, have been robbing us blind for wars that we didn't need to get involved with. Let's start from the top. Both wars we did not need to get involved with. I'm asking you a straight-out question. Do you really think we needed to go to Iraq? Tell me the benefit to the average American for all of the lost lives and at least $1 trillion of tax money. Do you know why? Do you know why we're broke today? Yeah, you say the Wall Street scandal. That's true. Most of them should be in prison. There's no question that the leaders of Wall Street should be in jail along with the former head of the SEC. But you know that they're never going to go to prison because they run the government. You know that they picked Obama to be in the White House because money talks and the rest walks. So they're not going to go to prison. But the bigger reason the country is bankrupt and that our currency is devalued, in my opinion, it's one man's opinion, is that the war bankrupted us. First the Iraq war, now the Afghan war. Now, why are we at war in Afghanistan? We don't know. Nobody knows. There's no reason to be in Afghanistan. Why were we in war with Iraq? All right, Saddam was an evil guy, and he tortured and he killed, and his sons were evil, and they tortured and killed. Well, you're telling me Kim Jong-il isn't as evil? You're telling me that there aren't equal dictators in other parts of the world? No, the reason that Saddam was killed had nothing to do with that. It had to do with oil. It had to do with make certain that the 7 sister oil companies could continue to dominate the globe. Now, the reason I could prove that, and I'll tell you why my suspicion will probably be held up to be true in historical context, is this. We were lied to by Bush, both about WMDs, which never existed. We know that for a fact. I know many of you say that they were moved to Syria, but you can't prove it. We were also lied to by Bush when he said that the war will not cost us anything, that the Iraqis will pay us in oil after the war is over. Have the Iraqis sent us 1 barrel of oil? No. The same way the Mexican government should be paying us in oil for the social costs of the illegal alien hordes who have decimated the United States of America. The illegal alien hordes have cost us billions and billions of dollars a year for many years. I, in my book, Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, suggested that we should force Mexico to pay us reparations in the form of what they have a lot of, which is oil. Mexico has one of the largest reserves of oil on earth, and it can be piped to us, not even shipped by ships. Forget the Straits of Hormuz. Just pump it in from Mexico. Pay us back for the hospitals destroyed, for the schools destroyed, etc. But Mexico has not been asked to pay us 1 barrel of oil. And so therefore, my friends, what you are seeing when you hear these dialogues about illegal aliens or war, you're just looking at the shadows on the wall of the cave. You're not even seeing the actors. You don't even know what's going on. There's a far different game than the one we are watching. You're not even watching the right game, so you don't even know who the players are.